Today we're going to get started with bees. Welcome friends to a new episode of Feed the Beast Ultimate Reloaded. How are you guys today? I'm Clobberstomp. I'm having a great day. And today we want to take a look at bees. Some of you guys have played bees or might think that bees are a little bit daunting and are really tough to get into, but I want to break it down for you guys as best we can. So we're going to put that guy on. Let's take a look. Oh, yeah, we look good. To be a super bee enthusiast, it takes a lot of effort, and it's not too challenging. So I want to break it down for you. There's a few things that you need to start with, and I've got it all laid out here. Well, the tools that you need, I have them in my backpack here. The first tool that you need is a scoop. So let's take a look at what that takes. I did not look these up because I figured you guys could if you're looking at. Here's a scoop. It requires some sticks and some wool. I do have mana steel, and I've made my scoop a little bit better because I'm using it all the time. So I have like Unbreaking 3 on it, Mending and Soulbound. It still breaks. And I named it Scoop John B because I thought it was funny. And then you need a bee smoker. Smoke. Which is also very easy to make. So you just need some tin, flint and steel, a stick, and a couple pieces of leather. Not too hard to get. But there's various other things that you need to get as well when it comes to bees. So the first thing that you really need to focus on is getting bronze. Most of the things inside of Forestry require you to have bronze. Forestry. So if we look at Forestry, and then we look at the machines, which are here. If you look, that requires bronze. Sturdy casings, bronze. You need bronze for pretty much everything that you do. So to make bronze or bronze blend, what you do is you take 3 copper and 1 piece of tin, and you can make bronze. Pretty easy. And then you can smelt that up in any smelter that you have, a furnace, electric furnace, whatever you have. Pretty easy. Then you can take said bronze and make sturdy casings. It's really easy. Make the sturdy casings. Cool, because you need those. You need sturdy casings for making the next thing, which you'll need a squeezer. So we'll take one of those. And then the thing after that is a carpenter. You can use some bronze, some more bronze again, then some glass and a sturdy casing. You can make a carpenter. Pretty easy to make. Now, I have a bunch of these, so I'm not going to get them started. But really what they do is, we'll go out here and take a look. The things that they do, the squeezer squeezes seeds. Now, do I have any seeds on me? That's one thing I did not have. Here we go, seeds. Seeds, there we go. It makes seed oil. And it's going to go out of here and into here. If you don't have the automation yet, it's not going to move. It'll just stay in here. You can use a bucket when you have a full 1,000 millibuckets. You can use the bucket, pull it out, and put it in if you haven't automated it yet. We'll get into all. We will get into all this automation. Sorry, that's a tongue tie. We will get into all this automation in a future episode, but for now you just need the squeezer. Put the seeds in here that you get, and there's various other things. If you click on this, it'll show all the recipes that you can get. You can make honey and seed oil. You're going to need squeezers for various things, but the first thing you need is seed oil. Why do we need seed oil? Well, it requires us to make what are called impregnated casings. So to make impregnated casings, one thing I did not grab was wood. I'll show you. Wood. There we go. Take a stack of wood, and we can put those in here. So put the seed oil in here. You can make impregnated casings. It will just run. They do have to be powered. I have them powered from underneath. So whatever way you want to power them, they require RF. So it requires, if you click show recipes, and we go find the impregnated casings. Where are they? Actually, you know what? Let's do it this way. Click and click. Nope. You know what we need? An apiary. This is what makes it. There we go. So it requires 8 logs and 250 millibuckets of seed oil. And then a little bit of energy. And it makes a few for you. Cool. So now that you can do that, these are your first 2 steps. You need a squeezer and a carpenter. Make yourself seed oil. You can make impregnated casings. The whole reason for making all that seed oil is making these impregnated casings so you can make yourself apiaries. Apiaries are super easy to make. They require 1 impregnated casing, 3 oak slabs, and 5 oak planks. I'm going to make a whole stack of those because I need them. I don't have any more. No, I'm out. So we've got ourselves 43 of them. That's more than enough. We're okay right now. Cool. Well, let's head over to the base and take a look at how to lay these out and what the things you will need. All right, we're at the main base, and the other thing that I forgot to talk about is gathering bees. So one thing that you need to know about is there's a bunch of different hives. Now, I suggest that you go to a plains or a meadows. We've talked about this in the last episode. If you go to a plains or a biome, you'll find meadows hives. And inside of forests, you'll find forest hives, which are blue. You need to start with those bees. They are the easiest to start with. But in order to gather bees, the easiest way to do that is to right-click with your smoker. It'll go, and then you can use your scoop, and you can get the bees. That way, they won't attack you. Now, I think, if memory serves, if you try to scoop them, yeah, let's do this. So, let's try to scoop this one here in the tree. They start hitting you. Ah! And the bees will get you. So they'll start attacking you. It's bad. So if you do that by accident, you can still use your smoker. They'll get you, but you use your smoker, you'll get them, and then it'll calm them down. Just like real bees. Very cool. Then you can get them and pick them up. There's another very useful item called the Appearist's backpack. So if you look at this, it's kind of easy to make. So you just need some wool, some string, and some sticks, and an Appearist chest, which you get some combs, a chest, and a piece of glass. This is really cool. So now, every time you drop bees and you pick them up, they go into your Appearist backpack, and it looks like this. You pick up all these bees, and then they just sit in your backpack, which is great. So, and then if you're looking at it without you having it open, you can see how many bee slots you have left, which is very nice. So when you're gathering bees, they don't just fill up all your 27 items of inventory. That's really nice to do. So, all right, what do we need to do to get started here? Well, the first thing we need to do is get started is, I'm not sure exactly where I want to put all these yet. So I think what we're going to do is, you know what, we'll put one right there. You guys will get the idea. So go into your Appearist backpack, get yourself, there's 2 things that you can do at the beginning. Gather yourself a whole bunch of bees. So I suggest that you do it at nighttime. And you're like, why would you do it at nighttime? It gets really bad. Well, hopefully it'll become nighttime and I'll show you why. But at nighttime, all of these beehives glow and they're really easy to find. Not that they're super hard to find on this pack anyways, because look at, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can count like 20 of them within my distance right here. But it is starting to get dark out, but I'll show you what it looks like. So you can see they're already starting to glow. They emit light and they're just easier to find. So gather yourself a whole bunch of bees. Wherever you find hives, pick them all up, everything that you can. And to begin with, you're going to find a bunch of princesses and a bunch of drones. You need both. Drones, you need princesses, and we can get started, which is really cool. See, they start to glow, and they're easy to see. See, they do emit light. You can see them over there. There's one. There's one. The meadows hives, not so much, but most of the other hives do. These curious or unusual hives, yes. See? Very neat, very neat. What's really cool is when you get to the point where you're actually going to start breeding bees, I suggest that you start with 2 of your your apiaries. And just to get bees started without breeding, you're going to want to take, let's say, I typically do not use, as you can see, there's Pristine Stock and there's Ignoble Stock, two different types of stock. Well, what does that mean, Clobberstomp? Well, what that means is the ignoble stock only will live for a number of generations before it just dies off. If you're going to start breeding bees, oh shoot. How are you even here, bro? Get wrecked. Okay. Oh, GG's. Diamonds. All right, let's go sleep. So what were we talking about? We were talking about, before that rude interruption from the zombie, the thing that you want to focus on are pristine stock. If you use the ignoble stock, you can use them if you don't have that many bees. By all means, use them up. I'm personally keeping them because I'll talk about why later. But really what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all my ignoble stock bees and I'm going to breed them up in their own way. And we're just going to let them all die off. And I'm going to try to get as many resources from them as I can. And then we're going to take those bees that it makes and we're going to turn them into DNA. But we'll talk about that later. Not that really big of a deal. But so what you want to really focus on is pristine stock. So what you can do is you can put one bee in here. You put a queen in here. Oh, this is already a queen. That's interesting. How do I already have a queen? Well, that's cool. That's a bad example. Sorry. Well, when you breed up two bees, a princess and a drone, it turns into a queen. And I'd like to show you that process, but it seems as though I don't have any. All right, we're going to do it with forests then. So take a forest princess and a forest drone, and you let this little bar go up. This does not require power, so that's kind of nice. Boom. You've made a forest queen. But we have a little tooltip here. What is this all about? Hive members are not finding the right flowers. So this requires flowers, but it should find them because there are flowers within a number of blocks. I don't remember exactly what the range is. If somebody knows that, put that down. I just can't remember exactly what it is. I thought it had to be within 16 blocks, but typically what I like to do is try to get something really close to it. So if you're within like 5 blocks, you're probably pretty good. So you should be fine. It might just take a little bit longer to seek out. So what's going to happen is these are going to breed and they're going to go down every time it runs through a cycle. And when it gets to the end, it's going to end up all in here. And when those end, I'll show you what it looks like. But both of these are going to run. And when they come to the end, usually what's going to happen is they're going to produce hopefully combs and other items depending on the type of bee. And then it's also going to produce a new princess and a new drone. Hopefully more than one drone, depending on the types of traits that they have. Now, the next thing that you can make when you start working on bees is you can make a beealyzer. This guy here, a portable, well, they call it used in previous packs, it used to be called a beealyzer, but now it's called a portable analyzer. This is used for making testing and looking at your bees. So in a carpenter, which we've already looked at a carpenter before, this carpenter will need water. So if you take a carpenter that's filled with water and you put tin and stain any regular glass pane, a diamond, so it's going to require you a diamond. It's not very expensive, but you only need one of these, so it's not a big deal. You put that in there with a little bit of power and it will make a beealyzer or a portable analyzer. Now, if you take that portable analyzer and you put some honey drops in it, which you should get some honey drops from, or honeycombs from these bees, you can take the honeycombs in a squeezer, which we've talked about just before. You can squeeze the honeycombs instead of seed oil. They'll make honey drops, and you can put those honey drops in here, which is very cool. And then what you can do is you can take any bee and you can shift click it or just put it in here, and it will then take a honey drop and analyze the bee. That's cool. So then you can take the bee and it'll give you all these different interesting things about it. It'll tell you about the lifespan, production, pollination. This goes with tree breeding, the types of flowers that it likes, how fertile it is. So this should create 2 drones. If you want to get 3 or 4, which helps you get more drones, which is really good. It talks about its territory and effects if it has any. You can also look at the next thing, which is, this is ignoble stock. It's going to tell you how many generations it's been in captivity, which it hasn't run through any generations of captivity, which is every time it runs through one of these cycles from here to here, that's a captivity of generation. So it'll increase by 1 every time it goes through that cycle. So I have some of my bees have been through 66 or more cycles, which I can show you. But as you breed them up further and further down lines, it takes more and more generations and takes longer. But this gives you a bunch of different other things. So it tells you about its climate, its tolerance one way or another, the amount of humidity that it will tolerate, whether or not it's diurnal or nocturnal, whether or not it's a tolerant flyer, which means whether or not it will fly in rain, and then whether or not if it's cave dwelling, meaning that it doesn't have to have open sky over it. That is a requirement for regular apiaries here, is it has to have open sky. If it doesn't, it'll stop working. So just to show you that wonderful point, if I do this, it stopped working. Sky is obstructed, not enough brightness. So interesting, very interesting. So the next piece is, well, what do we do if we want to try to get those other bees? And why would you want to get other bees? Well, there are a number of different bees in the pack, as you can see. There's tons of them. So let's say the Corroded Bee. Let's take a look at that. And we're going to click U to look at its uses. So the Corroded Bee is helpful for making the glittering bee and the nuclear bee. Well, that's kind of cool. But if you click on the bee produce, that's really what we need to look at. It'll create a rocky comb and a copper comb. So if you then click on the U of that, you can look at what a rocky comb gets from a centrifuge, which is another forestry machine we will look at some point. We'll look at that later, but if you put those combs in a centrifuge, you can get beeswax and honey out of them. That's how we get the honey drops. Now, if you look at the copper comb, this is really where it comes in pretty cool. You can get copper grains, which then you can turn into other things like copper, pulverized copper, and then you can turn that copper into an actual copper ingot. So you can get your bees to make metal for you. What? How cool is that, right? That's amazing. So yeah, that's the deal when you start breeding bees. Now, we'll get into breeding more and more. I wanted to leave this as kind of a basics type of thing for you guys to get started in bees. So let's kind of recap. So what can we do for our bees? Let's go back to base and I'll show you. So the first things that you need to make are, clearly you need to get yourself a ton of copper. I'm sorry, not copper. Copper and tin, and then you can make bronze. Bronze is pretty much the major contributing factor in making any of the devices for these things. You can make yourselves a bunch of sturdy casings, which are made used to make any of the machines whatsoever. You can make a centrifuge, requires that. So the recipe is kind of the same if you look for any of these. The Carpenter requires bronze, the centrifuge requires copper, and the squeezer requires tin. So the recipe is pretty much all the same. So if you know one, you kind of know the other ones. And then you can make each one of those and get some power to them. We'll talk about powering them later. And then you can use those machines to do various things. You can use the squeezer to get yourself seed oil using seeds. You can use the seed oil with wood to make yourself impregnated casings. And then you can use the centrifuge to put combs in to let that run through, and it will create beeswax and honey for you. So watch, this is going to go through its cycle here. It'll probably create some beeswax and then a honey drop. Now this automatically gets input to a squeezer, because then I can make honey, and then honey goes into, again, another carpenter. So there's a few, you're going to need to make a few of these machines, because you're going to need a carpenter for honey, a carpenter for seed oil, and a carpenter for water. And then you're going to need a squeezer that squeezes for squeezer. You're going to need a squeezer that squeezes to make seed oil. You're going to need a squeezer to make honey. So yeah, it gets kind of, you do the same thing a couple of times. So you're going to get very used to these machines very quickly. And then when you've got yourself a fair amount of those things, you can start analyzing all these bees and looking at their traits, which is really neat. So the next thing that you can do in some of these is you can take a look at what its possible produce would be, and it'll tell you everything that would be here, and then also whether or not it has any specialties. It'll also show you all the possible mutations. So you can see that we can use Meadows princesses to Meadows bees to make all these other different types of bees. Well, we haven't got to that point yet, so I have so many to make. And then you also, if you're really interested and you want to get into the craziness, you can get into the kingdom and class, genus, species items. But really the two main things that you're looking for are these two, is really what's interesting. Now, so I've got some bees that have been in captivity for a very long time. So let's take a few of these bees out so you guys can see. Do I have any of these that are this guy? Let's take you out and put the majestic drone in there. So, oh, this one hasn't been in captivity at all, but you can see the differences. This one has a fertility of 4, so it'll make 4 drones every time it's used. That's probably a poor example. Nope. Because it doesn't have any generations in captivity. But I think we can take a look at these. Oh, here we go. This is what happens when they're done breeding. You take a look at them, and then they breed up again. So, let's see here. Look at that. 2,308 generations in captivity. I really have no idea how that seems way wrong. I don't know what's happened with that, but oh, look at this. We have rural princesses. Let's take a look at these guys. So when you get started, so it took 6 generations to get my rural princess. This is finally very good here. So if you look, actually, let's take a look at that bee again. Sorry. If you take a look, the active and the inactive, if they're both the same, that means that you're going to start purifying these bees so you don't have these hybrids. There's also hybrids that you make when you start breeding, which we'll talk more in depth about in another video. But yeah, very cool stuff. I hope this has helped you get started with bees. It's kind of daunting. There's a lot of stuff to do, but when you really take a step back and take a look at some of the simple parts of it, it's really kind of easy. So if you have any questions, please leave your comments down below. I'm happy to answer anything about this process, and we're going to be going over this stuff more and more and deeper as we kind of level up together. So as you work through your bees and you start breeding them, which we can talk about breeding in the next episode, because there's a lot that goes on. I wanted to just get you into making bees and starting breeding. One thing I want to encourage you guys to do off the bat is take a few different bees and start trying to mix and match them. And then we'll talk about breeding in the next episode, I think, where I can explain why you breed and how to breed, and then how to obtain some of the other different types of bees that, see, I've got labels here for everything. And then we'll also talk about those things up there and what those do. But we'll also talk about how to automate all of this stuff as well. So when you're doing breeding, they don't necessarily have to be automated. So when you start out, that's not anything that we really need to concern ourselves with. Right now, it's just a matter of trying to get the different types of bees by mixing and matching forests and all the other ones that you can get. So try those, see what you come up with, and then we can talk about breeding in an upcoming video. Okay? All right, friends. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please stomp the like button, It really helps me out, shows your support, and it lets me know that you want to see more. As always, please like and share on your favorite social media. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Take care. And